Yo! Video games.
What up, dudes? Matt here from YoVideogames, and I'm here to talk about what we all fucking saw yesterday, which was the announcement of Stadia from Google. Now, if you've been following the YoVideogames podcast on many of the free networks like Libsyn, Stitcher, SoundCloud, or iTunes, or if you're part of the YoVideogames podcast Patreon at, of course, patreon.com/YoVideogamespodcast, then you already knew that me and Funk Machine, or Andrew, we called this already, so we kind of knew this was happening. There was a lot of rumors saying, hey, this is going to be a legit console, it's going to have a box. The rumors kept it ramping up. They started to have display cases outside GDC the day before, and it seemed like, we might actually be getting like a fourth console, and, our gut feeling was correct the whole time, and it turned out to be it's just a streaming device. I thought it was going to be like a small streaming box, maybe possibly with memory on it. But no, it's not even that. It's literally just, fuck it, just log in somewhere on one of Google's Internet Chrome browsers and play the game straight from their data center. So it is just pure streaming, which kind of, it's like, oh, how the hell do you save games? Well, you just use like a cloud-based save file profile, I'm sure. And the thing was about this hour-long presentation, which I think a lot of people are going to just be like, they're going to be like Will Smith in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and be like, where do video games at? And I was kind of reminded early on when it was starting and, 15 minutes rolled into 2030, and I was like, okay, yeah, this is a GDC keynote. This is Game Developers Conference. This is not E3. This is not a special outside, the GDC thing. It is strictly for Game Developers Conference. So I'm not really super salty about the fact that we didn't get a ton of big game announcements, although it really would have helped sell this thing to the gaming audience that they obviously want a piece of the pie of. But it was in hindsight, it was very much like, okay, they're selling this to developers at GDC because that makes the most sense. Though it does make it an awkward debut in a way, because you want, eventually you get developers in and they're going to be making stuff for this, you hope if you're Google, but you got to build excitement too for all those thousands and millions of gamers you're going to be connecting with. So I think it was kind of, again, a little bit of an awkward debut for it, but so there you go. But was there cool things? There were cool things about it. I think one of the main differences between this and, say, services like Game Tap or even Game Pass on the Xbox is that they're doing a thing where you're going to be connecting to, Google's data centers or whatever. More importantly, though, is what makes this, say, different from, say, like Game Tap or similar services, because really, Stadia is really nothing new. It's not something we haven't seen before. It's not something we haven't heard about before. But what's interesting is that they seem to have set boxes or monster rig PCs that are standardized, which could be a kind of a big benefit, because then if, say, you want to make a game for Stadia, you have a hard box that it's going to run off of. It's going to run off of this. You don't have to worry about, will it be running off an Xbox S or an Xbox Pro or X, whatever, PS Pro, Xbox X, one Xbox, Xbox One, one Xbox One. You don't have to worry about any of that. You don't have to worry about, like, if all of the PCs in this data center are the same. They are all the same. So it's just these big-ass monster rig PCs that are, funnily enough, I feel, running off Linux, probably because Windows is just fucking terrible for gaming, generally speaking, nowadays. And, of course, you don't want to give any sort of money to your actual competitor, because, of course, Microsoft's a competitor to Google, especially now that they're stepping into an industry that Microsoft has been in for, almost 20 years now. So I think that's probably a good leg up, I guess, on other streaming platforms, is that, hey, you're going to have a standardized monster rig, and it's not streaming to a console which is now 5 years old and the technology's kind of dated and all that. So that's the thing. And here's the crazy thing: is they did beta test this earlier last year, from like October through December. They called it Google Project Stream. And the thing is that they had a little smorgasbord of tweets of people saying how great the service was and it ran so beautifully. And so I did a little digging and research, and I started to, read about people's experiences who were not part of a Google stage presentation, but actual, honest to God, impressions from people who used it. And it wasn't really very good. It was actually kind of about what you would expect. Digital Foundry put up a really good video that kind of showcased their experiences as well with it, and as exciting as all this stuff is, and the fact that they talk about, okay, it's going to go directly from, say, you know, your device you're playing on through your ISP strictly to the Google data center and back. The problem is that they say, oh, you're not going to be going to client-based servers or anything like that, so we're going to cut out all these middlemen. And it's like, yeah, well, the worst middleman of all oftentimes can be the goddamn ISP. And we're living in a world where ISPs are fighting vigorously to fucking murder all kinds of net neutrality and charge you all kinds of extra for using, you know, excessive data. And it's kind of like, it's, you know, that's going to fucking hurt this already. I mean, Google should probably be should be worried about that a lot, but that's sort of outside the point, is that ISPs are kind of already the worst problem. They're the worst middleman. And I think really the key issue here is just that this will have no practical application from what I'm seeing so far for competitive gaming. Although I did notice that Google was very smart or just very keen to not talk about esports. They didn't really bring it up. Like, they kind of hinted at it, kind of danced around it, but they were not talking about esports on this, and that's because nobody in any competitive gaming scene is going to be interested in this. And the reason for that is, like, you can see from their own stage demonstration where the guy goes from, you know, product or platform to platform, you know, laptop, mobile, TV, PC. Like, he's just switching off his Assassin's Creed Odyssey. There was 10 to 13 frames of delay between his button press and the action on screen. And I mean, granted, Assassin's Creed games already have fucking like baked in sluggish controls, so maybe it was the best or worst game to demo this product with. But yeah, this has zero competitive application because there's already a problem with just playing a game online. Like, we go to fighting games because you're on YoVideogames. Of course, you're fucking interested in fighting games. You know, there's already an issue just going from peer to peer. Now, we've made strides, you know, within the FTC and in the whole genre itself, you know, with the GGPO and stuff like that, and we have like games like Killer Instinct, which were these sort of miracles of you know, net-based connections. But really, a lot of competitive players, they're playing against other humans most of the time. And a lot of competitive players try to kind of avoid online because it creates, you know, bad habits, and you know, you don't want to try to learn timing based off of delay or anything like that. So there's already sort of just an issue when you're just doing one-on-one games with fighting games, and then you want to add in the fact that you're streaming the game off a rig somewhere else. It's just not going to fly. If there's you know, multiplayer games that are not super reactionary based, maybe I could see a little bit of a future there. But at the end of the day, most times, like, even for like big stuff with like League and Blizzard and stuff like that, they just bring monster rigs with them to these stadiums, and they're playing like on LAN. It's not, you know, the internet is not there for kind of the competitive scene. The other problem is that, like, the internet's not really, it's not going to be great for games of single player variety. Now, they did show off Assassin's Creed a lot, but, you know, Ubisoft's kind of like the worldwide bicycle when it comes to, you know, just, you know, giving everyone a ride on their games and platforms. They'll show up everywhere, you know, they'll be showing off with Nintendo, you know, mobile games, and now Google Stadia and all this shit. And yeah, can I just say Stadia sounds like a sugar supplement? Like, this sounds like something you put in a diet soda. Anyways, single player gaming's, the benefit from this is going to be, these monster ass rigs which can do, you know, multi GPUs, and you know, it's obviously going to have all kinds of crazy shit, you know, with ray tracing and what have you. So you're going to be able to, like, run games super pristine. But the problem is that people who beta tested this Project Stream already were talking about, and Digital Foundry did a really good job explaining this, that, you know, it kind of like chunked the frame rate. A lot of times, like, if your connection wasn't perfect, you know, it would drop the resolution, it would drop features, you know, just to sort of like try to maintain consistency. And they're like, it was good, but it wasn't top of the line, which kind of defeats the whole purpose. You know, because they kept talking about scalability at this conference, and scalability is great and all that, but it's like, if you're already kind of, most people are not, when they're playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey, they're already not getting a visual like visuals that are worse than the Xbox One, Xbox One, One Box X. They're already not that great, then it's like, ooh, it's already kind of like having trouble chugging up, to an Xbox One X. Ugh, I don't know about that. And I think here's the main issue. Here's the main problem. And I probably could have foretold this problem before they, anyone went on stage, was that a lot of these tech companies don't fucking realize that most of the world doesn't live with Silicon Valley-based internet connections. They just fucking don't. And they talk about how they try to streamline it and make, the data code streams like very, quick and simple, but it's like, the problem is that it's still bad. Like, no matter how, good shit might be for one or two people, it's like, it's always going to be those who are Wi-Fi warriors, who are, they're playing just in areas of the world that just don't get great internet, and it's not even their fault. And of course, this goes back to ISPs being kind of shit, and they are. So the problem is that, yeah, you're just going to see a lot of people who are just never going to be able to get a super great connection, and they're not even going to be able to take advantage of, these 4K 60 or 8K 120 even, in the future, just because that the infrastructure for the internet in America kind of crap, not really as good as some of the other big first world countries, and it's not going to really change anytime soon. I mean, it's, again, if you live in San Francisco and Silicon Valley, of course you probably, maybe you have Google Fiber if you're lucky, and you're going to be able to easily stream to their data center back and get the absolute best pristine quality, even from streaming. But even within LA, much of LA and pockets around it, they don't get great internet. They just don't, and they're locked into one ISP only, and it's just, you're just going to be dealing with, and now of course that's going to get worse, the more and more rural you get. So this is kind of, I feel like this is kind of a crapshoot. And I mean, would I like to be proven wrong in this? Absolutely, but from the actual testimonies I've read, not from Google's press conference, but from actual people who used it and have posted, elsewhere, it doesn't sound like it's, going to suddenly revolutionize the world and everyone can, anyone with a monitor is just going to instantly see 4K top-of-the-line gaming and have no latency in their button presses and whatnot. I mean, it might, they'll say it'll be running at 60 frames, yes, but the actual button press to action on screen might still be a little bit delayed. And that's just not good. And then there's the other kind of issue here, which is that this doesn't really offer a huge advantage for indies in particular. It's actually kind of anti-indie in a way. So here's how, let me just explain this. So Google Stadia, the whole idea is that it's going to be using, they haven't said it, this is not confirmed or anything, but obviously, you're obviously going to be using some sort of subscription service to play Google Stadia. So, because you're not going to be downloading games. These games, you just open them up in a Chrome browser. You're not downloading them, which is a huge problem, again, for single-player games, because it's not like, oh, can I just download this? Can I buy this single-player game? Like, buy it wholesale, download it, and then just keep it on a PC somewhere so I can just boot it up and play it. And like, nope, you gotta connect to the Google data center. And if your internet goes down, get fucked. So the problem is that you then, okay, how does this make money? Well, obviously, it's going to be some sort of subscription model. People like Ubisoft in 2K games, they're not going to just like offer their products, for free or like some super low premium. They're going to obviously be asking for some sort of cut to host their games on Google Stadia. So what happens then is that, how does an indie game make money? Well, from what we've heard from indie game developers is a lot of these gaming streaming startups, they're doing a thing where they don't they don't do a upfront payment to the indies at all. They don't give them any money. They just say, hey, can we host your game on our service, and then we will pay you based on the number of subscribers, based on the hours played of your game. Now, here's where this becomes a problem. A lot of indie games aren't very long. A lot of indie games aren't even multiplayer, and you're just not going to get it. A lot of people, even people who love the games, they're not going to play them forever. So, I mean, if you got like a cool short, indie platformer, you're getting dicked because you got to hope that a lot of people download it, and then a lot of people stay on and play the game and play it and play it and play it and play it. And that's a terrible fucking thing, and it's super catered towards AAA multiplayer games. And that kind of wraps around into the whole thing, which is like, this is seemingly the whole fucking point of this conference was a massive jerk-off to AAA multiplayer gaming. He goes, and even just beyond the gaming part is just connect. We want to connect you to everything. We want you to be more connected than ever. People will watch your streams and, jump into your lobby from the browser while watching this. Get connected. And I kind of sat there and was like, I was kind of getting sort of just annoyed. Not really annoyed, but just sort of like, okay, we'll go with annoyed. Over how much they were obsessive about connecting everyone from all over. And it kind of hit me. I'm like, well, of course, this is Google, and this is how Google works and makes money. And the thing they care the most about is about getting a giant, massive social media presence. And that's kind of like where everyone chases this sort of golden goose, this rainbow, looking for that pot of gold, having this major social media explosion, becoming the next Facebook, becoming the next Gmail, Google, becoming, the next Twitter, Instagram. Like, that's what they want. They all want to be the one who came up with this great new social media experiment first. And it really, at the end of the day, it's like when you're a person like me, even with content creation on YouTube, it's just, I just want to play good games. And, obviously, we really didn't see much of any of that at this conference. They were demoing Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which has, been out for a while now. They showed NBA 2K, who gives a shit. Doom Eternal was shown, and they were, talking about how they were going to be demoing the game at GDC, but the thing's going to be running on a fucking Switch. And then there were sort of teases from Dylan Cuthbert and Tequila Works, which is kind of like the only slight interest I had. And of course, Jade Raymond coming in to run a first-party studio for Stadia Games and Entertainment. But it kind of like, I just kind of like have to go back to what Reggie was saying, when he first started talking at press conferences. It's all about the games. It's all about the games. I mean, if there's not serious, compelling reasons to play games on this thing, or exclusives, really, I don't really see the point of this. Again, it's not going to be offering you the best multiplayer advantage, or I should say connection. Like, if you have a PlayStation 4 or Xbox, or a gaming rig PC, this is not going to be any sort of real advantage other than it's going to be this monstrous rig. But on a competitive scale, you are going to be at the mercy of your fucking ISP. Providing you with a good enough upload and download to the Google data center. And if you have a gaming rig PC or PS4 or Xbox, you probably are not going to be interested in signing up for another subscription service that is entirely dependent on your upload download. So I don't really see that going too well for it. And again, it's not really, unless they have a lot of big exclusives, there's not, you don't want to play like a single-player game that has any sort of lag, especially if it's an action game. Like, this would be a nightmare to try to play Devil May Cry 5 on something like Google Stadia. Would unless you were sitting there in fucking, in the Google headquarters, it probably wouldn't run all that fucking great. Or at least it wouldn't run as well as if you were just playing on a Monster Rig PC, or a Pro, or an Xbox One, Xbox One. So yeah, there's problems with the fact that there's not a ton of games. It's really not advantageous. It's kind of a disadvantage for indies to be on the platform, to be on a subscription-only service model. I don't see I'd be excited to see what what other developers could do with these monster rigs. Some of the stuff they were highlighting, in particular like the Tequila Works segment, where they're highlighting the machine AI going in for art styles. I thought that was terrible. I thought, using machine AI to color and texture and create, even go so far as to say, hey, what if we have machine AI learn to make levels? Fuck that. There's a human element, a human artistry to making shit look good, and using textures and art and level design and map creation that a human will always be better than a fucking machine at doing. And I just go back thinking about the world's Monolith Soft creates, and it's like, I want games to look like that. I want to explore worlds like that. I don't want to explore big giant Magic City Man cityscapes and shit like that. And I don't really want to play a game where it has a really gaudy machine AI driven texture filter over it that someone did by slapping a Google image search onto it. So, yeah, I mean, the only real exciting thing could be, again, going back to the rumors that may or may not be true going before this announcement, was that, you know, they were landing some exclusive old Sega IP. There were rumors that it was going to be called Jet Set Revolution. It wouldn't be super exciting for me. I'm not a huge fan of that franchise, but yeah, I'm really going to need to see something exclusive, something that really warrants it. But at the same time, if I don't have a great first couple of days playing the games, it's not something I would go past, like, say, a free trial for. So that's kind of like the problem right there, is that I don't really care all that fucking much about some of the big, massive, all connected, you know, multiplayer aspects of it. I rarely play multiplayer games. I'm only going to play multiplayer games if I have a dedicated group of people to play them with, which could happen with Google Stadia, but again, like, it's going to be, it might be hard to get some of the people join. Like, someone who's super silent at the whole thing, of course, was Activision, because they want to charge you $60 for their game, and then they want to charge you a $50 season pass, and then they want to charge you loot boxes, and then they want to charge you special microtransactions on top of all that. And Google Stadia would not have technically any of those things, so I can see why Activision was a little silent this morning. But yeah, I can't really say I'm all that jazzed. The best thing that could come out of this would be if they were able to pick up, you know, struggling, you know, or revive older IPs, or pick up, you know, AA style developers to get them to, like, bring something along the lines of, like, Rhyme or something like that. Like, get stuff like that funded and going. That would be best case scenario for me right now. But yeah, at the end of the day, is I want to own my games, which you will never be able to do on Stadia. I want to know that, you know, if the power goes out, I can still play video games. Obviously, you can't play video games if the power goes out. I'm like, I can play my fucking Switch if the power goes out. Thank you very much, goddammit. So, right now, as far as, like, advantages to being a different thing or being a streaming service, I don't really see a lot for me personally. But you know, obviously there'll be people who will be really interested in some of the you know, big connected features it has. It is cool to see an idea where it's like, hey, you can watch a trailer for a game at E3, and then you can click the Play Now button and it'll load you into a demo. That's fucking awesome. Might even make the fucking Stadia worth it alone if they were able to come out this E3 swinging with it and do something like that. Like, that would be really awesome. I like the idea that if you were streaming and people wanted to join you, they could join from the stream. That's pretty cool. There was some hints about, you know, maybe using the data center and all the different GPUs to kind of play a multiplayer game where you could, like, see what's going on your other player's feed, so you could coordinate better and bring a whole new level to stream sniping. But as far as my personal taste, there wasn't any real game announcements, so wasn't much to get excited about there. And they kept focusing on multiplayer. They kept focusing on, you know, connectivity, social media explosion, and these are all buzzwords which shrink my dick rather than grow it. So I can't say I'm really all that jazzed, and I'm not really all that surprised either that it's just, hey, it's another Google initiative. And I think the other fear going into this is that Google has a long history of starting projects and then just abandoning them. And the fact that this is something that just goes through their data center and is just launched through their browser, it's kind of like, yeah, I can definitely see if this doesn't take off, Google can easily just pull the plug and just pretend it never happened, and no one will fucking remember or care in a couple of years. And it's a very easy, no mess, you know, no fuss filter. Now, of course, there's that controller that they showed off, and it kind of whatever. I think one of the greatest announcements about the controller was not their controller, which uses Wi-Fi, which is interesting, but the fact that they're going to let you use other controllers, like, hey, if you like the Pro or the Xbox One controller, whatever, you can use those on your browser and stuff. So it's like, okay, cool. That's actually really nice and happy. But then of course you lose the Google Share function in the Google. I don't fucking care about the Google Assistant. Yeah, and then there were other things too, like, hey, if you get stuck in a game, you can use the Stadia to load the solution on YouTube right away. This is actually something that companies have teased at for actually years now at E3s and GDCs, and talked about this. Like, we'll be able to instantly like load up like, you know, a help feature, and who cares? Like, they act like it's the end of the goddamn world if someone to whip out their fucking phone and just quickly YouTube or Google a solution to a video game. Like, it's kind of like appeasing like like really going after a small nitpick of laziness. It's really going, and it's like, it's not gonna like convince me to fucking subscribe to Google Stadia whenever that comes out. And yeah, and again, like, they didn't say there was gonna be a subscription. They said it was launching this year, you know, in America, Canada, and Europe. Get fucked, Asia. But I mean, of course, there's gonna be some sort of subscription model to it. It's got to be cheap, because if it's not cheap, it's gonna have a really hard time convincing people to jump into it. Again, the best thing they could fucking do is if at E3 somehow launch a free trial so people can watch trailers of video games, you know, probably from Ubisoft and other AAA developers they jumped on, and then hit, hey, if you got a free trial going, you can play the game right fucking now. Just click play. So that's the best thing they could do to really get this off the ground. That's what they should do. It's what they won't do. But yeah, that's kind of where I stand on Google Stadia. Is it exciting? There's a couple things that are exciting. Is it the future of gaming? Possibly. Am I personally looking forward to it? No. So that's all I got to say on it, and let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you on the channel later.